Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rotor Talk Live, Season 9, Episode 2, DJI moving forward in 2026. We have very special guest, Michael Wright. He needs no introduction. He's here. Johnny, Drone Flyer, Johnny Alfonso is going to be joining us here in a minute. And Ron's going to be stopping in at the bottom of the hour around 8:30 or so we can, and definitely he wants to be in to talk about Steeler Nation. So that's something I've been looking forward to all day. So, Michael, how you been?
Doing great. I just got back from CES on Saturday. I was there a full 4 days. I enjoyed it. Had a good time. Yeah, good weather today.
Fantastic. Let's see who we got in the house. Drone Shots, Giggles FPV, let's see, Sergeant Rock, RJ Redding, Drone Views Media. Johnny's here, of course, CC Pirate. Welcome, John. Let's see who else. Bud Bieber, welcome, Bud. Art's here. Welcome, Art. Let's see who else. Casey Crime Fighter, welcome. Richard, welcome. John Flynn, welcome. All right. And so, Michael, tell us about CES. How was your experience out there?
Oh, it was fantastic. It's been on my bucket list for 50 years. I finally made it. So.
That's fantastic. So, yeah. What drone manufacturers were there? Were there any that we would recognize?
Potensic was there.
Okay.
Again, anti-gravity.
Okay, good.
360 had a booth next to anti-gravity, and that's pretty much, I think, the ones you would recognize.
Okay.
There were about.
And did they have some products? There
are 10 or 12 other companies out there.
Yeah, did Potensic have some product on display?
Yeah, they didn't have the Atom 3. They had an Atom 2. The 3 models of their Atom. They had them on.
Oh, okay.
And I flew it in a little cage on there for a few minutes, but it's just like any other Potensic drone, pretty much.
So what else besides drones did you go and take a look at? What other kind of tech were you interested in seeing at CES?
I'm into all kinds of gadgets. Have been all my life. I enjoyed seeing the robotics. AI was a big thing out there.
I bet.
A lot of robotics, anywhere from robotical hands to full-size robots to you name it. I mean, clear climbers, just across the board.
Yeah, that's really getting to be big. I know they're really pushing it at our work right now to use AI like Microsoft Copilot and other tools to help us in our jobs. And, a lot of people are worried, this is going to replace people's jobs. And I said, well, not necessarily. It's an enhancement. It's good for me, for what I do, for what I use AI for is to help write things up, in papers and documentation. So, take care of some of the busy work. So that does a really good job there. So did you run into anybody that we would know?
Well, Aldrin's the only guy we ran into. Again, I knew Bob out there. Bob and Tom. I spent some time with Tom on Sunday. Went out to Ghost Town, fly drone about 2.5 hours away.
Wow.
That was a lot of fun. Tom spent the day with me on that. And then I spent the week with Bob that week, and Bob went out to the show with me on Tuesday.
Awesome. That's great. That's great.
We walked in. We walked in the main central hall. First thing we saw right in front of us was anti-gravity.
So wow.
We saw that new one to the right, and we ran into Aldrin maybe 5 minutes after that.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
And that's the only guy we knew only one we knew that anybody would be there. We did see a couple other drones too, though. Some manned drones. They had a couple of them out there. One of them here, it had little props of maybe 6-inch. It looks like 6-inch props. And 48 of them. I got a little short video on it. 48 of them for a manned aircraft. Okay. And they were all in a cage. Kind of. But we had another one, Bill. We couldn't believe it. Bob and I saw this. There was a drone, has 8 props out there, manned drone. And the owner got in, put a helmet on, put gloves on. And he actually started up the props. No cage. People were 5 feet away from these props. We couldn't believe that he was allowed to do that. I mean, I've got a little short 7-second video on that too. I'm going to be posting this week.
Yeah, drop the links and Bill is joining your Facebook groups. I'm sure a lot of people would like to see that. And,
I'll do that.
I know. I also know that from what you told me, Brendan Carr was out there and gave a speech, and I think you attended that. So how was that? Did you pick up anything? What did you say?
I went to Brendan Carr. I was in the front row seat, all seat right in front of him, maybe 30 feet from him, and he was very. Let's put it this way. I took a few notes. Let me see everything you said. He only mentioned the word drones one time in the 35 minutes. Okay.
Oh wow!
And he made one comment. He said that he's been trying to lay low recently. Everybody laughed at that.
I wonder why.
And then he also talked about there's different comments he made. Talk about U.S. being in the drone industry, maybe 5 years from now, they'll be on top. And I just don't believe it. I don't, 5 years, I just don't think it'll happen.
No, that's going to take a whole lot longer than that. I mean, to source materials and to build plants and to, I mean, you can replicate plants and manufacturing, but you can't always get everything right. And, that's why it's going to take a long time to replicate what DJI is doing here in the United States. So, I don't think it's going to be coming, I don't think we're going to be seeing it within the next couple of years. I think it's going to be 5 or more years out before we start to see something.
I agree. And DJI is going to be 5 years ahead of that.
And they'll be 5 years ahead of that curve.
That's just 5 years from what we have now. Yeah, they're not going to be.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about
they're going to be where they're at now.
Right. There's been some updates this week, and we're going to talk about that after Ron joins the show. But
sure.
But yeah, that's going to be, it's going to be real interesting to see how things will be going forward. So,
right.
But it sounds like you had a great time out there. I know I wanted to go out there. I actually got a ticket the year the COVID hit. So obviously
didn't go
when COVID hit. And here's Johnny's going to join us here. Hey Johnny.
Hey Bill. Hey Mike.
Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
Good to see you.
How's everybody doing?
Mike's been telling us about his CES adventure out there.
Man, I know. Hey, no, the biggest question, did you see Justine?
Not in live person. Bob was supposed to hook me up with her, and he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. I looked for her. Anyway, Carr also mentioned in part of his talk, he talked about how they're going not just with UAS. He mentioned full tech and all. Even he said even in the cars. He mentioned Lamborghini. I thought to myself, Lamborghini's not an American-made car.
Oh yeah.
Why didn't he mention that in the show? And he mentioned China on a one time in the entire conversation. The word China one time. And another one though, he did say that they were going to be doing some. He mentioned the new release that was put out on Wednesday about the potential, but he didn't mention any particular drones. He just said there's a new release where they're easing up on some of the restrictions on some of the foreign-made companies. But he didn't go into depth. So I'll look it up later. But he did say he followed that up without mentioning any other company. He said, or mentioning or China. He said that America is going to be stressing they're stressing American-made drones with Europeans' assistance. He didn't say Asian. He didn't say worldwide. Wow. He said with European assistance. Okay.
Well, see,
Germany, and they have drones.
You know what's going to be a real problem, and I want to take a minute to talk about this. We're going to talk more later about it.
Sure.
And Ron's going to be joining us. But one of the things is the raw materials. And China has a lot of raw materials that we just don't have access to here in the United States. Okay, and we have to source if we need those. And from what I understand, we still have an agreement with China, and they still provide us. And I think it has something to do with we provide them like wheat and soybean and other agricultural products in exchange for some of that raw material. So it's a one-on-one kind of a thing. So everything kind of pans out. But we don't have those raw materials to source. And so one of the other things that I read is, and which we'll be talking a little more later, is that a lot of these drones, like for instance, agricultural drones, okay? Nobody else makes agricultural drones other than DJI. Nobody. There's nobody out there that does that. All right. And apparently they're going to allow some exemptions. All right. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But they're also, you guys, I'm sure you guys are all aware that, when Skydio started switching from consumer to business, that they had to source their batteries from China. Okay. And,
exactly.
It's just, here's our buddy from Skydio throwing DJI and everybody else under the bus. And then all of a sudden he needs batteries from China. He's like, oops. Yeah. So,
exactly.
It's coming back on you. So, yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Carr also mentioned a couple other things. He meant one time he mentioned where he said the tariff thing wasn't working out. Everybody laughed when he said that. It's not stopping anything.
No.
He also said during his conversation, he said we're trying to be more transparent, and that really got a laugh for their audience.
Transparency.
That was the word he used. Transparent.
Wow.
They had said, Mike, that he wasn't going to say too much about drones.
He did.
He
said the word drone one time, Johnny, before you got on.
That's what I heard you say that, yeah.
And he also said during the conversation, he said, due to he said this competition, believe it or not, he said it's going to be driving down consumer pricing. Okay.
And you know what?
That's competition will drive down consumer pricing.
That's the exact opposite of what I've been saying on the show. And that's why I've been telling people to go out and to buy items from China or South Korea or Japan while they're still at a reasonable price, because what's going to end up happening, the more the time goes on, these prices are going to go up and up and up.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing, Bill. I bought a lot of batteries, a lot of props.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I know Casey Crime Fighter, he told me, he bought some new props, and I think some prop guards, because he had a little bump in, I think, with one of his drones. And he said that really, he says, he thanked me for prompting him to do that and getting people thinking like that. And I said, you're going to want to do it because, that $125 battery that you're buying now, 4 years from now, it's going to be $525. Okay. So you want to get these things now before they jump up, before you're paying, $500 for a Neo 2 battery, which is, insanity, but it'll happen if you don't start jumping on these things right now. So, wanted to go ahead. There's some articles.
And as long as
go ahead.
Sure. I was just going to say, as long as you maintain those batteries, they'll be fine. I've got some 8 batteries from Phantoms. I've had some in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
They're great condition. Just use them every 2 or 3 months. Charge them up, discharge them, bring them back to 50%.
Yeah.
They'll be good batteries. They'll last for years. They really will.
Exactly.
Ahead,
now, this is a good article here, and I'm not really going to get into it in depth here. DJI's automated waypoint flight makes cinematic drone flying easy. I know I've done several videos on waypoints as well. What is DJI's automated waypoint flight features really? Adjust speed automatically, smooth turns to curve pass, maintains camera framing, repeats the route precisely every time. Manual flying still matters, but waypoint flight changes how pilots think. Instead of reacting in real time, you're planning shots like a director, letting software handle execution, focusing on composition, not stick input, okay? Which DJI consumer drones support waypoint flight? Mavic 4 Pro, the Mavic 3 series, Air 3S, and my mouse is Air 3, Mini 5 Pro, Mini 4 Pro. And then the article starts to get into and talks about waypoints and setting them up. And that's the thing I think a lot of people get tripped up on, guys, is getting waypoints set up. I mean, once you get it set up, it's pretty seamless and it does everything automatically and you don't have to worry about things. But I know I did a number of tutorial videos out there, and I reference this because this is in Builder Drone Reviewer Facebook group. If you're unsure about waypoints, follow this article, see what it says, because it's really good and it really gets into some things. And, if it's something, if you're going to do a repeated action a number of times during the day, go ahead out there, get waypoints set up and do that. That way, it takes care of things automatically. Everything's done for you. You don't have to worry about getting everything right. You just set it up right in the first place and you get it done. So just wanted to call everybody's attention to that. Okay. Got a couple other updates here. And it's about the DJI Power series that there were a couple of articles on Drone DJ and Drone XL that I wanted to go over here. It looks like Yeah, I'm supposed to be sharing here. My computer's on the slow side tonight. All right. DJI releases new firmware updates for Power 2000, Power 1002. Okay, and it gets into the updates here. And you could read for my screen here. Okay. Let's get the other article up here. And this was from Drone XL. And DJI Power 1000 Mini launches in China. Okay. And take a look. It's real. It's very small. It's like almost really kind of handheld right here. DJI's new power station weighs 25.35 pounds compared to the Power 1000, which is 31 pounds and smaller in all three dimensions. The Mini measures in a 12 by 8 by 8, while the 1002 comes in at 17 by 8 by 9. So it has a smaller form factor to it. And let's see here. To help with the reduction in size, DJI made several compromises in output and capacity. The Power 1000 Mini features a 1008 watt-hour battery, slightly smaller than a 1024 watt-hour battery found in the Power 1000 V2. Maximum output is limited to 1,000 watts with a sustained load of 800 watts compared to the V2's 2,600 watt continuous output. USB-C output is also capped at 100 watt, down from 140 watt on the larger models here. Okay, and right now this one's only available over in China at this time. You probably couldn't even buy that on eBay, even if you wanted to do that at this point. So, and then there's a third article here that we're going to get to.
No price point on that. No price point on that, Bill Hunt, on that.
On that, let's see here. US $500 is on the Mini. That's what the price point is here.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, you caught the big one. The Power 1000 was like what, 419 at one time, I think it was.
Yeah. The Power 2000 here. There was an article on Drone XL. The DJI Power 2000 drops to $699 on Amazon, 46% off. Makes this the best drone field charging deal 2026, and it's really packed. It's loaded. That is a great, almost 50% off. That's a fantastic price. If that's something that you need and would help you out in the field or at home, I think that would be something that would definitely be worth it. And again, it's $699 on Amazon right now. Last I checked, they were still out there with that.
It's so big. That one I think weighs 38 pounds, I believe.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy, Johnny. It really is. And you have to have, I think for these, I mean, you could use it for drones, but it would be good. I know I have a whole home generator, but also too, and a lot of people don't realize when you have that whole home generator, you don't want to tax the system when you're using it. So having something like this, say for like smartphones and tablets, and running computers off that during a power outage would be absolutely perfect. So
yeah, absolutely. If you use it at a little charging station and in your shop or something, it works really great for that. Yeah.
Bill, I'm using it out in Texas Hill Country. I did not want to put $20,000 in an electrical transformer for my man cave only. Yeah. So I've got
I agree with you.
I did a little ice maker on there, a coffee maker, all that will work off of that. It's great.
$300. Oh, Drake said you can get the Power 1000 for V2 for $399. That's a good deal.
The Power 1000. That is a good deal right there. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to start. Let's get this off here. And okay, DJI moving forward in 2026, and there's a number of things that we're going to talk about. Ron's going to join us here in a few for this, but the first thing that I wanted to talk about with this is the Hover Air's Aqua, and there was an article out on Drone DJ that I wanted to share. And if you've been one of the early adopters on this, you probably want to pay attention here. The Hover Air Aqua is designed to survive something consumer drones usually fear most: water. And talks about that. The first batch of Aqua units originally expected to begin shipping in December, but Hover Air pushed that timeline to February. For crowdfunded hardware project, delays aren't really exactly shocking. What's more worrying is that even today, the drone does not appear in the FCC database of approved devices. And since the agency's foreign drone rules have since changed, securing that approval can be next to impossible. which means the Aqua's U.S. launch is now very unlikely, even without an official denial from Hover Air. Okay, why the FCC rules suddenly matter? And I think we all know why they matter, because you won't be able to legally fly that drone here in the United States. I mean, that's bottom line. So, you know, I think if you've purchased one of these, I think you want to get with Hover Air and find out what's going on, because at this point, you know, if it comes and if you get it, it's going to not, you won't be legal. You can technically fly that here in the United States, because again, you know, that blacklisting that happened on December 22nd, a day early, means the Pocket 4 was approved. The Avata 360 was approved, but that's it. Beyond that, nothing else has been approved. So, and apparently this was not on that list, on the FCC list. So because of that, you know, there are people who were early adopters of this and participated in this are probably going to be, you know, they may be without their money. I mean, really.
You know, Bill, they were out at CES. I did see it, and their response to that was, "We're working on it." I got to see the hover in the water. You know, they had a little tub there. We're working on it.
I think Captain Ray actually ordered one from Indiegogo, the Kickstarter campaign. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you know, and this is a good time and a kind of a good segue. And Johnny, I know you just got your V-Copter Mini, and give us an update on that. How's that working out?
Well, the V-Copter Mini is doing good. It's as I said last night, it's got some little quirks. You know, I know some people still had some app problems. It seemed like you had to update the app and maybe delete it and put it back on your phone. Don't ask me why it works after you do that. Still with that mid-servo era that, I mean, I didn't have any problem, but I know Mike had it that time. Ron had it.
First time, yeah.
And I think Jim drove me, and I know Jim had messaged me. He was fixing to throw his back in the box and send it back, but we got it flying. But yeah, it's just a unique drone. It's, you know, it's not nothing special, but I think they have fulfilled all the orders that I know of. The drone is available at Best Buy for, I think, $449 for the combo pack with the fly. Well, they don't call it a fly more. I forgot what they call it, but you know, 3 batteries, and but it's doing good. I think, as far as I know, Mike, everybody's that had it ordered, I guess, got it pretty much.
So I got mine. I've done 2 flights with it. You know,
yeah,
pretty much.
So it's you know, 0. I mean, hey, I think they did the right thing. They really, it was something to do electronically, you know, with the battery and the components in the drone, because the new drone has a 6-pin harness, and the old one had, I think, 5. So it was definitely something to do. Now the old one will not fly at all. You could fly it before this with a without the app and just fly it line of sight, but it will not even fire up. So they actually bricked it some kind of way. So it's you got a good hanging on the wall, I guess, Mike.
Yeah, well, it is kind of like that in a way if you lose your props. I texted the support. They put me on the hover support, came back and said they don't have any props. I said, my response was, this drone has been out for 6 months. You don't have the $15, the cheapest accessory you can get for props. And then they came back the third time and said, send us your ticket number and we'll take care of you right now. I said, you didn't send me a ticket number. How can I say a ticket number?
Well, I think, you know, save your old drone. You got some props there. So, hey, you know, and they had, they had a set that came in there. They had an extra set that came in there also. So, with your original, not the replacement. So,
and if you want any extra batteries, you can't get those either. You know.
Well, Captain Ray actually got a battery from AliExpress.
A second battery for the Mini?
Yep.
Wow.
Sure did.
Check into that. Because V-Copter wouldn't. They said we don't have them.
Yeah, I don't know where he did. Or no, I'll take that.
I'll talk to Ray about it.
He got it from Indiegogo, through Indiegogo, some kind of way, or through.
Okay, I'll talk to Ray. Yeah.
Well, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about real briefly is an update on the Pocket 4 and Avata 360 on their releases here, and I'm going to share a couple of screenshots, and I took these off of DJI rumors. I don't know if you guys have seen that. They're out on X, on Twitter, and they pretty much compile anything that like Igor or Jasper has done, or any other kind of rumors that are going out there. So you know, that's kind of a good one to pay attention to. Now, if you talk about here, and I'm trying to get this up, and I don't know why there we go. All right. Leaked DJI Osmo Pocket 4 and 4 Pro have surfaced. Pro shows a bigger dual camera block, nearly as large as its rotating display. Amazon Germany briefly had listed the Pocket 4. Launch pushed October. Pocket 4 late quarter, first quarter, early second quarter 2026. Pro in April of 2026. So that's the update on the Pocket 4. And below here is the Avata 360. There's a couple of pictures of that. Okay. And last we heard on this, pricing is out there. We pretty much have all the information that we really kind of need right now on that. And I think, as Ron and I talked about last week, we kind of think they were waiting for CES to be over before they actually released it, because I think everything's ready to go. I think they're in the pipeline. I think, retailers are ready, the ones that will be featuring this. And I think it's good to go. So I think it's going to be imminent. We may see it as soon as next week or within the next couple of weeks. I personally think it's probably going to be here before the end of January. That's just off the cuff. That's just what I think. But what do you guys think about the Avata 360? Is that something like you guys would be interested in getting?
I'm interested in. Again, I think end of January, but if it doesn't get that, I think it'll be after Chinese New Year's. I think it'll be March.
Okay. That's a good.
I don't think they're going to issue it.
That's a good point. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, absolutely. At first, I think everybody was kind of thinking it was just a 360 only, but it looks like it has a 2-camera system where you can fly it regular, and that'll be nice, and having that feature of the 360. But I mean, personally, I think it's coming out the day after tomorrow, Thursday.
Okay.
I think so.
I like that kind of thinking. I really do. And looking at the prices, I think you guys probably have seen the prices, and they look very reasonable in terms of what you can expect.
Exactly.
I mean, it pretty much matches up with what you would normally see, what DJI would post if their website was available in the US. It would pretty much, these prices, I'm really pleased with the pricing system on this. And I think one of the other things that I think DJI has really hit a home run on this with, you can use it as FPV with goggles, or you can use a controller with it. And I think this is kind of a home run. And there he is, Mr. Ron. Ron, how are you,
Hello,
sir?
gentlemen.
Hey, Ron.
How's it going today?
Doing great.
How you doing, Ron?
Doing good. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Bill, we talked about it, a little bit last night. It's the ecosystem. You got everything. If you got RC2, if you got the goggles, where anti-gravity is kind of behind the 8-ball, you got to buy the whole kit. So big money. And if DJI, did come out with a whole set of goggles and a different controller and a different thing, well, yeah, that drone might be near that $1,500-$1,600, but it looks like it'll work with RC2, which, a lot of us have. So yeah, if we can snag the drone and a couple of batteries for, $500-$600, I mean, yeah, it'll sell like hotcakes.
Mm-hmm. And two, what about the rumor? Of course, we've heard this from the beginning that you could flip to a single lens camera too. So if you're not interested in doing 360, you could flip it to just a normal camera and record video like that. So that's a good option that the anti-gravity drone does not have.
Yeah, absolutely. Big feature there.
Yeah, so
and it doesn't have a standard controller.
There were a couple of people dropped in the chat. They're asking Johnny how his testing of the Avata 360 is going. So, and I know he's under NDA and he can't really talk about it.
They probably know better than send me one, because I'd be like putting videos up. Wasn't it DM Productions at that time? Darren, of course, that might have all been he put it up like a week earlier of one of the drones. That would be me.
Well, I know Marcus just posted that you're testing it, but that probably, what he's doing, he's probably deflecting the blame off of himself, because he's probably really testing it and not telling us about it. So
yeah.
Hope you're enjoying it, Marcus. Okay, that sounds like a real blast. Well,
I wish somebody in the U.S. would be testing it, but unfortunately, I think we are past that now.
Yeah. As far as I know, Louisiana is still part of the U.S., right? If you abdicate it, you may be able to get the.
Well, hey, we could get it exempt from not getting drones. Yeah, I'd vote to take us out for a little while for this year, maybe till something changes.
There's a couple of articles here that I want to talk about, and I'm trying to get them up. My computer's really slow, so kind of bear with me here as far as this is concerned. And it's really kind of a blacklist update. And there's 2 articles that were on Drone DJ that I really wanted to talk about. And one of them is about the U.S. Commerce Department, which was, and I read through this, and it's very interesting. If you had a chance to, definitely read this article. And I'm talking to everybody out here because you want to find out, I read a snippet and it really intrigued me. So I dove in and I took on the article whole on. U.S. Commerce Department backs off FCC stays firm. Okay. Late last week, the U.S. Commerce Department withdrew a proposal that would have restricted or potentially barred Chinese-made drones under its Information and Communication Technology and Services Authority, according to Reuters. The proposal had been in motion for months. The Commerce Department sent it to the White House for review on October 8th and continued internal discussions through December 19th before pulling it entirely. This is the same legal authority the department's used to effectively block Chinese passenger vehicles and commercial trucks from the U.S. market over data and national security concerns. Applied to drones, it would have gone far beyond what pilots are dealing with today. Why this matters, Commerce Department's plan was the nuclear option. At first glance, the Commerce Department's withdrawal of its proposal might look symbolic. It isn't. The plan was widely seen as a worst-case scenario for drone operators. The department had been exploring restrictions on care systems inside drones, onboard computers, communication links, flight control systems, software, ground stations, and data storage. Had those rules gone into effect, they could have made existing DJI drones illegal to operate and not just future ones, impossible to import. That's a very different outcome from the FCC's approach, which grandfathered in previous approved equipment, okay? The department itself acknowledged in early 2025 was examining whether foreign-made drones could allow adversaries to remotely access or manipulate devices and sensitive data. That's why this withdrawal matters. The U.S. government effectively chose the less disruptive path. During the December 11th meeting with U.S. officials, DJI warned that blanket restrictions on drones manufactured in China would create unnecessary, conceptually flawed, and would be extremely harmful to U.S. stakeholders, according to online records later retrieved by both Reuters and the South China Morning Post. The argument wasn't theoretical. Public feedback during Commerce's consultation period showed overwhelming concern from drone pilots, public safety agencies, and small businesses. Surveys conducted around the same time suggested a large share of professional operators would face business-ending consequences if access to DJI hardware were cut off entirely. The Commerce Department didn't say DJI convinced it on its merits, but the outcome speaks volumes. Instead of stacking another layer of restrictions on top of the FCC ban, the department walked away. Okay, here. The timing here isn't accidental, and this is important here. Government official told Reuters the move appeared to be linked to that effort. It's tied to Washington's freezing certain actions against China ahead of a planned April meeting between President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Okay. The context is important because it undercuts the idea that Chinese drones represent immediate, non-negotiable national security emergency. If they did, enforcement wouldn't pause for diplomatic convenience here. What the FCC ban actually does and doesn't, and I'm going to try to move down here. Despite all the noise, the FCC rules are very specific and very limited. What is blocked? New foreign-made drone models cannot receive FCC equipment authorization. New critical components from foreign manufacturers cannot be certified. Future DJI drones without prior approval are effectively shut out. What is not blocked? Existing DJI drones remain legal to use. Previously authorized DJI models can still be sold. No current fleet is being grounded here. Okay. So you can read the rest of the article at your leisure. But I wanted to bring this up and I wanted to talk about it because I think it's important that, I don't want to say it's 100% in favor of us, but it really, the brakes got put to this all of a sudden, and that was from the White House, okay? Because apparently they're doing some negotiations with President Xi over in China, all right? And, they don't want to appear to be the bad guy with them. So I think they're backing off the gas pedal as far as this is concerned. But it's really kind of disturbing, and I think Koopy pointed this out on Drone Nation when he was on there, that this could have had that kind of power to really, reach out and say, your Air 3S, your Mavic 3 Pro, boom, gone, history. See ya, adios, But they didn't do that, and they pulled back on this. So, a small win is still a win in my books. What do you guys think?
Well, Bill, my comment on that, you mentioned about the drone components of future drones. I still think, or still in the ban. I still believe the Homeland Security or Department of Defense is going to give exception for batteries and Chinese parts for future American-made drones to use Chinese batteries and so forth. They maintain that they still have the right to do that.
Well, didn't they say something about a 60-40 rule or something? Where does that
65%?
Oh, it's
supposedly,
60-40,
and
yeah.
about by next January 7th, they're thinking it's probably maybe reduced to maybe increase to 70% American made. They may increase every year, but right now it's a dead date, January 7th.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw something
supposedly
about that. So.
For 1 year, yeah.
Now, there's another article here on Drone DJ too, in the same kind of light here, and it's the U.S. isn't banning every foreign drone after all, and I think this is also good to read as well too. A surprising twist to what was widely described as a sweeping ban on new foreign-made drones, the FCC has now carved out significant exceptions that allow certain important drones and critical components continue entering the U.S. market through the end of 2026. In a new public notice, the FCC confirms that certain drones and drone components will be exempt from its sweeping covered list restrictions following a second national security determination from the Department of War. The move doesn't undo the broader crackdown or new foreign drone approvals, but it does clarify that not all drones are being treated the same here. A quick recap: why new drone approvals stopped, and we know what's going on with that. Update: U.S. drone import ban now has select exceptions. The latest update stems from a follow-up determination the FCC received on January 7th, this time from the Department of War. This determination carved out two specific categories of drones and components that, at least for now, do not pose unacceptable national security risk and therefore should not remain on the covered list. These categories are uncrewed aircraft systems and components included on the Defense Contract Management Agency's Blue UAS cleared list. So that's a mouthful right there. UAS and components that qualify as domestic end products under the Buy American standard here. Okay. And companies such as Parrot, Teledyne, FLIR, Neros Technology, Wingtra, Auterion, Model AI, Zephyr Flight Labs, and AeroVironment, all firms that already have deep ties to the U.S. government, defense, or enterprise drone programs. Okay, so that's coming from. What is Blue UAS and why it matters for readers outside defense circles? Blue UAS is a Department of War-led program designed to identify drone systems that meet stringent cybersecurity, supply chain, and operational requirements for government use. Okay, by exempting Blue UAS listed systems, the FCC is effectively aligning its market contracts with existing defense procurement realities, ensuring that trusted drones already cleared for government missions aren't accidentally swept into a blanket restriction here. What this does not change for DJI and Autel Robotics, and we just talked about this before in the other article. The FCC also reiterates it will continue updating the covered list as it receives new determination from national security agencies. For everyday drone pilots, the takeaway remains reassuringly consistent. Your existing drone is still legal. Your current operations aren't changing. There's no sudden shutdown coming. Okay, and that's the and as far as that article is concerned.
Bill,
so what do you guys?
That article is a great article, but it makes almost no reference to hobbyist drones.
Yeah,
right. And I think, and that's a great point, Ron. And I think what they wanted to do was to kind of really kind of carve out exactly where this is going to fit and where we fit in this. And where these government contracted drones will fit in this, and basically, the article is basically this. It's basically, if you have been approved by the government, you're going to be okay. All right, your components will be allowed to come through if they're coming from China, as far as that's concerned. Now, another question, and I know, and I've seen this raised on several forums in other groups, and I've seen other posting on this too, is DJI agricultural drones. Drones are concerned. Nobody else makes them in the world. Okay, they're only made by DJI. So there's been some talk, and I've seen some things, but not official, that they're going to try to get DJI agricultural drones on this list and get them exempt from being blacklisted. So I mean, because the situation is this, from what I've read, what will have to happen is, okay, a lot of farmers used to depend on crop dusters. All right. And, 20, 30 years ago, this was a norm. You saw a crop duster flying over fields to spray pesticides. All right. Well, now almost all this has been replaced by DJI drones and agricultural drones, and they're precise. They don't waste product out there. They actually give you information about your crops and it's the health of the crops. I mean, these are very valuable things, and it's for the U.S. food supply. Okay. And so, and that's how they're kind of steering this. And from what I've read, it sounds like congressmen and senators have been very favorable about this. So, so there's a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, for DJI, even though it's not consumer, it's agricultural, but being, of the mindset that, hey, this is going to help us get food on the table. And I think that's something that's interest to all of us. And I think that's kind of what prompted these senators and congressmen to kind of go with these things here. So, I mean, that is some good news.
But Bill, the thing is, we all want in the hobbyist community here, there should be a little asterisk on all these rules that says something at the bottom like under 250 gram drones are not included in any of this. In other words, this doesn't include any hobbyist drones.
And they could, but it doesn't seem it's not going to happen, Ron. It's sure. It's
well,
like
I don't think our lawmakers, I don't want to name any names, but I don't think they even understand the difference. They think drones are drones. They don't understand that a hobbyist drone's about as much like an enterprise drone as some toy car you bought at Walmart is the same as a Chevy truck or whatever.
Right.
That's how much of a chasm there is, and I don't think they understand. I think they think all drones are drones. Like they don't even know like a Neo exists or whatever. They think DJI is setting over all their drones are giant enterprise level drones. They don't even know there's a Neo or a Mini 5 Pro, whatever. They don't realize. Well, they don't care because they're not making any money, lobbyist money. We don't have unfortunately the hobbyists don't have our own lobby group, but I think it's, again, they need to carve out something for the hobbies. All this stuff doesn't apply, especially to under 250 gram drones.
Yeah, well,
exactly, Ron. And not only that, these congressmen continue to use DJI mics.
Yeah. But they better be mics that already have FCC approval, Mike.
Well,
won't make a difference to them.
when they voted on the bill, on the defense bill, all of it was in there. It said all drones. It didn't say anything about agriculture. Now some of them are trying to come back and act like, we're trying to save the community by trying to get the agriculture drones back in. So
some of those politicians they actually live in the farm belt and they need the votes. So now they're worried about not getting voted because they're taking people's
if they'd have read it in the first place, that they could have addressed it at that point. Like you said, they've taken all drones as one big just drones are drones. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, I'd be like classifying, just saying automobiles that would include the cheapest automobile and the most expensive one in the same conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're lumping a bunch of things together, and there's a lot of good in that lump. Okay. And you don't need to just, you need to point that out, and you need to be, be real careful about that, because you don't want to say as an aggregate, that would be like for me and what you said with your example. Okay. Cars get into accidents and people get killed. So cars are bad. Okay. Well, that's not necessarily the instance here. Okay. You need to be, it's just, I'm trying to provide an example as far as that's concerned.
Right. Like if a Honda or Toyota car crashed, we got to ban all cars from Japan then.
Yeah, we're going to ban all Hondas and Toyotas from the United States. And what would that be? I mean, that would be ludicrous. Okay. And that's along these lines. And that's a great point that you guys bring up here. And I think that's something that we need to be aware of, and I know I've been preaching this to the choir. A real interesting story here. Okay. Kind of a little sidebar. eBay adventures. Okay. I've been having some eBay adventures lately. And a lot of these, like I bought the prop guards for the Mini 5 Pro from someone over in China, and they were a week from getting to my house when all of a sudden I get a message from the seller saying that they have been sent back to him, and they shipped the it's called eBay Speed Pack something or other, and then they give you to this odd website that's first in Chinese, and then you got to translate it to English, and then you bring it up and you take a look, and God only knows where it's at, even in English. Okay. And I don't know a thing until it actually hits the United States. Okay. But I've got an education recently. It's from the other end of the spectrum. I bought a computer at the end of last year that I didn't use. In fact, I didn't even open it up. So I went to list it on eBay. Well, lo and behold, what I've been getting, and I mean, this is no joke. Okay. I've been getting Nigerian buyers. Okay. Legit buyers from Nigeria with United States addresses. And I told them, I said, look, I don't do business. Okay. If your address on eBay shows, if your country shows Nigeria, I don't do this business. I have had to go in and block at least 10 people because they've all been making bids on this. All right. And one of the things that I found out that a lot of these companies, and I know Richard Mazzarella sent us an email today or the day before about US-based sellers, the quote-unquote US-based sellers. What happens is there's a lot of these companies that will have drop ship locations here in the United States. All they are it's an exchange place, okay? Nothing happens there. It goes from one to the other, all right? And when they have these drop places listed, that they can be quote-unquote United States, but they're not really United States, okay? So, and what happened in one instance, I accepted one of the bids without really taking a look at this guy, and it was UPS Ground Advantage. And what happens with UPS Ground Advantage is, okay, first part of it's carried by UPS, but the second part is done by USPS. Well, it had one address up at the top, and it had a different address at the bottom, in the same town in Texas, but a different address. I canceled it right away, and I refunded his money. So going forward, I'm going to be putting in my listings that I don't ship to third locations like that and Dropbox locations like that. And I also do not, your address has to match. If it doesn't match, it's a no-go. So as far as that's concerned, that's kind of like some FYI for you guys. I know a lot of you guys have been out there eBaying recently. I want for the most part, my eBay experience has been absolutely fantastic. Okay, especially on the big ticket items.
It's better to be a buyer on eBay than a seller, Bill.
Oh, absolutely, Ron. 100%. I mean, I can tell you, I had so many horror stories on things that I sold over the years. It was not funny. I mean, just absolutely ridiculous. But being a buyer, eBay does afford you some protections as far as that's concerned, and I'm real pleased with the transactions. And I had one instance over here, okay, that unfortunately didn't work out, and I had to get a refund. They were so fantastic in terms of getting me that refund. As soon as it hit them, I had the refund in my bank account. It was already there. So they were fantastic about it.
Well, as far as buying the US, Johnny and I said this a while ago, a lot of people are selling a Mavic 4 Pro, or at least a couple months ago, for $5,000 on Amazon or whatever, right? But and they're US. But I think what they're doing is they're just waiting for somebody to buy it for $5,000. Then they go order from South Korea for $3,500, and they get it. And then they get to their house, they ship it to the guy that bought in America, and they just pocket the $1,500 difference. And so the person that bought in America thinks they bought US. Yeah, where all the guy did was just take their money, order from Korea, and then send it to them, whatever. Anybody could do that or whatever, because people think they've got some sort of benefit if they buy from a quote US seller. But if the US seller is not a certified like dealer of the product or Amazon or something like that, just some random guy on eBay, you don't get any advantage from buying from him in the U.S.
No, and I think everybody that I know of ordered any kind of drone from eBay. I don't know of anybody that didn't get a drone, So I know, you think where you bought yours from is great, and I bought from that with US, and I bought from I don't know. There's another one called Miss Swan. There's a couple. So
they've all been good to the customer.
They've all been good. Now I did win an auction supposedly for a Mini 4. Mavic 4 Creator combo, and the guy he kept saying it was shipped so I emailed eBay, and of course I asked for a refund. I got it in about 10 minutes because the guy couldn't verify, but that was
and I looked at that same seller at the point he was selling them. He didn't have one official sale on eBay yet or whatever. He just listed this stuff and hadn't had any sales yet because this is early on. I mean,
so eBay's your friend.
Made some sales, but nobody had got him. He didn't have any sales or feedback. So that looked, that looked bad.
But I don't know if I've sold a couple drones that will actually go to, like Bill said, it seemed like I've sold two that went to say Miami, it goes to it looks like it's a shipping
company. Yep, they say send them out of country. Yep,
you know, so it's going out of the country. Although, I mean, they pay for it, and hey, I don't really care where they ship it to, but it was.
Yeah,
in
the old days, my wife and I, we did a lot of we did a lot of eBay for purposes. We didn't mind those shippers in Miami send them to the Caribbean or whatever, because you know what, you were never going to get a return then.
Now we're buying it back.
Never a return was coming back from the shipping company.
Right. Yeah. Now we're buying it back from South Korea and Japan. So
you know what? I found out on ChatGPT when I was asking questions about this. A lot of times what they'll do is when they pose these two addresses, they'll say they never got it and they'll file an insurance claim. All right. When they actually do have it, and they'll go ahead out there and sell it, and then they'll pocket the money from the insurance as far as that's concerned. So, you know, and you know, it's like, no, I'm kind of wise to that. So, but yeah, I don't hesitate to get them on a block list on eBay as far as that's concerned. So, we're going to go ahead. I mean, the drone part of the show is over here, and we're going to be talking about something that has been on my mind kind of since last night.
But let's not jump the gun here. Let's talk about the game before we talk about today's news.
We're going to talk about the game. But hey, Bill, thanks for having me, Ron.
Oh, thank you, Johnny. Appreciate it.
See you, Johnny. We'll have you back for Saints Nation here sometime.
Absolutely. All right, guys.
Take care, Johnny. Thanks so much.
Hey, Johnny.
And Mike, do you guys root for Houston at all in your area? The Texans?
No, I'm still rooting for Dallas. What they are.
I mean, anybody around? Or do you live in an area where there's Texans?
Oh yeah, we follow Houston. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
And we know Texas had a strong defense this year. They were known for their defense, but boy, I didn't know it was that good, Bill.
Well, you know, the first 10 minutes of the game, and I was telling my wife last night. I said, you know, I had a good vibe after the first 10 minutes because you know, it looked like the Steelers had a little bit of a rhythm. That, you know, they were completing some passes, getting some runs, and then all of a sudden it got stalled, and then they had to go for a field goal. And I'm like, okay, all right, this is going to be a tight game. The announcers are saying it's going to be a tight game, and you know, and it's that way. But I'll tell you what, when the score was 7-6, and I was on X, and I was, you know, communicating on. I have a Steelers account out on X, and I'll tell you what, people were saying, you know what, that is the most secure 7-6 lead you ever want to see, because Houston was, you know, everybody goes, well, the Steeler offense was horrible. And I said, well, you know what? The defense ain't doing too good either, because they're giving up these 49, 50-yard plus plays all the time. Okay. And Houston is getting way too close. And then, okay. And then
before you go too far there, I'm thinking halftime, it looks good. They're only down 7-6, but they got 3 turnovers. They got 2 fumbles from the quarterback, an interception, and they only got 6 points out of 3 turnovers. You need to turn those into touchdowns, right?
Exactly, Ron. You know, the thing for me was CJ Stroud. I mean, up until that game, hadn't had a turnover the entire season. Okay. And he has 3 in that game. Okay. And
but somehow between all those turnovers, he popped that 38-yard touchdown bomb off the Kirk down the sidelines. And that guy Kirk or whatever, he looked like he was a superstar in that game. I looked up in our fantasy leagues, we all dropped him. He received for 230 yards all year long. He had 130 last night. So this Kirk that burned him all over the field.
There was nobody around him. I mean, he was in the end zone. Enough about that. Oh yeah. I mean, that just wow. Okay. And then, okay, you know, right. Somebody said, and I think one of the announcers said last night, it may have been Troy Aikman, you know, or maybe Joe Buck, you know, why do the Steelers get into a hurry up offense here? Okay. And just call the plays at the line of scrimmage. All right. Because that really keeps the defense off balance. They didn't do that. All right. And I'm like, why aren't they doing something like that? Because every time they were handing it off, boom, it would be a 5-yard loss, or they'd try a pass. Boom, it was like a 2-yard loss from the line of scrimmage. I mean, it was that way the whole night. But one of the things that I think a lot of people said really kind of changed momentum, all right, Metcalf had his hands on a ball. If he had caught that ball, it would have made a big difference for them last night. It went through, it hit him in the worst spot in his hands, okay? And he didn't catch it.
And Bill, he caught 2 passes in the first quarter and never made another catch the rest of the game.
Yeah, he was, you know, he might as well have still been out suspended a game, okay? for all the good that he was doing last night. I mean, seriously.
I mean, even all that going wrong was still 7-6 going into the fourth quarter, but before they had the interception for the TD. But the thing is, overall, I mean, everybody knows Houston's defense is really good, but Pittsburgh didn't seem to be prepared for it, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we're like I saw the Niner game against the Eagles when the Niners offense was stifled. Guess what they did? They ran a double reverse trick play and had a receiver throw a touchdown. Why didn't Pittsburgh do something to throw that defense off, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how many times did he throw the ball to the left to Calvin Austin? Was that his name, Calvin Austin?
Austin. Yeah.
They threw the ball to him. The defensive back on him was so much bigger than he was. I couldn't even see Austin. There was no chance of those balls getting completed.
Yeah. It was like, what's the definition of insanity? You keep doing the same thing over again. I mean,
that was the offensive playbook all night or whatever. And then,
oh my gosh!
And then I didn't see Firehoof the whole game. Then they threw him 2 long passes in the fourth quarter. He didn't get one, but he got the second one. I said, well, they needed Firehoof in there. He's one of the few guys that makes big plays out there, and I don't see him in the game for the first 3 quarters.
Well, I also have to feel a little for Aaron Rodgers. Okay, he's every bit of 42 years old. Okay, and the first thing to go on a quarterback is their legs and their mobility. All right, and because of that last night, that fumble, boom, scooped up, ran in the end zone for a touchdown, and then because he got forced into a pass, intercepted, touchdown. Okay, it started compounding itself. It just started going.
And by the fourth quarter, Pittsburgh's defense is gassed. They don't have anything left in the tank because the offense was 3 and out all night long.
Yeah, and it ended up near the end of the game. They put Mason Rudolph in. I mean,
with 2 minutes,
Aaron Rodgers wanted to get out of there alive, and I don't blame him for that. So and you know what? You really can't blame Aaron Rodgers for this. Okay, the Texans have an incredible defense, one of the best in the league. All right, so you really can't be poking your face at Aaron Rodgers and say this is all your fault. No, he's 42 years old. Okay,
and they should have been better prepared for that defense. They couldn't do what they normally do against that defense. You had to do something different. And believe me, they have the number 1 defense in the league, but that was probably their best defensive game of the year. They haven't shut teams down that good as they did last night.
Well, and you know what? That ended up being the most lopsided game of the playoffs this weekend. All right. All the other ones were incredibly close. I watched all of the other ones.
Though they did outscore the Chargers, I think, who only got 3 points the night before.
That's true. But all in all, somebody did an analysis since in Tomlin's reign, he has had some incredible point losses in his playoff game.
He has 5 double-digit playoff losses in a row.
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, I went to one of them. Won back in 2011 and 2010. Okay, I went to one. It was against Jacksonville. Ron, they were up, and Jacksonville ended up winning the game with like 35 seconds left. I went to that game. You could have heard the air come out of the stadium when they scored that touchdown right at the end there. I mean, I was like, you got to be kidding me. You absolutely have to be kidding me. Well, I got out on X last night, and I have to say, right after the game, the first thing that was coming up on my feed like crazy was #Fire Tomlin. Okay. And then his press conference was very different from his other ones, okay? Because I've watched his press conferences, okay? And it's usually wash, rinse, repeat. He says the standard is the standard. Got to give Houston credit. They're a good football team. Blah blah blah. He said I have no words to explain what happened. Words can't explain this.
No words. Yeah.
Yeah, he was very kind of contrite. It was very different. Something was very different here, okay? And I think it probably kind of led to what ended up happening today. Was he met with Art Rooney II, and after that meeting is when the statement was issued that Mike Tomlin is resigning as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, one of the things that I found out is the Steelers retain the rights to Mike Tomlin, all right? And what this means is in order for him to get another head coaching job in the NFL, the Steelers have to trade him to that team, all right? That's what has to happen in order for him to get another head coaching position.
He's probably going to network TV this year then.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I said. He's going to go to Fox or NBC or CBS or ESPN, okay? He's going to get paid the big bucks. Bill Cowher did the same thing, all right? And, he can get paid the big bucks. And the other thing that I told people is this, okay? It's a no-brainer for him to do this because the other thing is, okay, he won't get exposed by going to another team and seeing how just plain awful his coaching abilities are, okay, which they are, okay. And mind you, and I know I had some.
He's going to be portrayed on a network as a football expert that had all these non-losing seasons.
Yeah. These non-losing. Somebody put a picture up, and I posted it on my timeline of Mike Tomlin holding up a non-losing season trophy. Okay,
participation trophy. Yeah,
exactly. One of the things that I have to say in all this, and I know I've exchanged some messages with Dre, and it's been kind of good. But I want to make sure that I get this across. Okay, I do not dislike Mike Tomlin as a man. Okay, I think he's a nice guy. In fact, I waved at him. He was at a Penguins game once, and I waved at him.
And he had a successful first half of his career was very successful as far as playoffs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's been the last 10 years that he's really kind of gone downhill as far as that's concerned. 9 years without a playoff win. And I think the handwriting was on the wall. And a lot of people really surmised that in that meeting with Rooney, that Rooney told him, if you don't resign, I am going to unfortunately be forced to have to let you go. Okay. So I think Tomlin chose the path of least resistance, offered his resignation, a nice.
Of course, if he got fired, he would get. Of course, if he got fired, he'd get all his money and still could go anywhere he wanted to. So
exactly. He chose the right. He did the right thing for him, and I'm sure, like I said, this is nothing personal against Mike Tomlin. Okay, but you know what? I'm sorry. He is just not a head coach in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. Okay, he's been doing the same thing, wash, rinse, repeat for 10 years. Finally,
or at the very least, he needed to change, and the Steelers both needed to change. They could start new tomorrow. Now, you think Ali Khan should be the next guy out the door, right? Or the
yeah, he's just as bad. Okay, and you know what? And I wish we could get rid of Art Rooney II too, but we can't.
You can't fire the owner.
Can't fire the owner. But you know what?
Cowboys, right, Mike? Can't fire the owner.
That's right. Well, I used to follow Bradshaw. His house is 5 miles from my house where I lived.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He lived in Dallas' entire playing career, as well as his broadcasting career. And I went to his estate sale 2 years ago at his house. So.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Well, one of the things is, Art Rooney Sr., who I actually met, believe it or not, at a Pirates game in the 1970s, and Dan Rooney, who I never met, okay, they were the architects, and they built the Steelers into the dynasty that they were, okay? They won the championships and everything. And then Dan Rooney became ambassador to Ireland, and then unfortunately, he had severe scoliosis. His health was horrible, so he handed everything off to Art Rooney II, his son.
And old Art Rooney was one of the most beloved owners in the league, right, Bill?
Oh, he was. Everybody loved him. I mean, everybody was a friend to him. He loved everybody, okay? Now, Art Rooney II has a background. He's an attorney, all right? And he's in dealing with finances. And he's running the Steelers like a business, all right? It doesn't matter if they make the playoffs or it does, they do get more money. But all in all, he's running it like a business. He wants to get that revenue stream coming in. And it's still coming in, all right? That's the thing. It doesn't matter if they make the Super Bowl or not. But conversely speaking, his dad and his grandfather were polar opposite. They're like, the money will come in. That's fine. But you know what? We're going to focus on winning championships. And that's something that's been lacking in the last 10 years, okay? That desire has not been there. It's been this, it's another winning season. I said, a winning season, where's the winning season trophy case? Where's the parade for the winning season? Okay, we don't have those, all right? You know what? Let's call it like it is. And the first order of business, I saw this and I looked through a lot of the sports writers. They said that they need to focus on getting a franchise quarterback. Okay. They've been playing quarterback go Ron since Ben Roethlisberger left that team. All right. They need to find someone who's going to fit in there long term as a franchise quarterback. Another Ben.
And that would have been tough for Tomlin, because if he did that, he probably would have sacrificed his non-losing season by playing an inexperienced quarterback for a couple of years.
Exactly. And people were saying, why didn't Will Howard play? Now, Will Howard was a third string from Ohio State and had a lot of high marks, but he never got a snap this year. He didn't even get it.
And because if they played Will Howard for 17 games, they would not have made the playoffs.
No, they would not. Okay. And that's
nothing on Will Howard. He may be a fine quarterback someday, but he wouldn't have led him to a winning record this year.
Well, everybody has heard the phrase Christmas in July. I had Christmas in January, because it was like to a diehard Steeler fan who saw them at their worst before they became their best in the 70s. All right. And I think, Ron, you kind of had the same experience too with like the Eagles. Okay, you saw them at their worst, and they, and they picked up the pace lately, and they won a couple Super Bowls and have turned things around as far as that's concerned. So, you kind of relate to where I'm coming from.
Well, the Cowboys are kind of stuck in the same mode now too. I mean, they, well, this year they didn't make the playoffs, but they kind of play good enough to get in the playoffs, but they don't win once they get there.
Yeah, exactly. So, this attitude has to change. And they're talking about trying to get a coach in a younger kind of a mindset, kind of like a Dan Campbell from the Lions or the coach that the Bears have right now.
Hopefully more of an offensive-minded coach or whatever.
An offensive-minded coach, exactly. So, they got plenty of time. I'm glad this happened now because it gives them plenty of time to go through and find somebody that's going to be a right fit for them. So,
right. And maybe Rooney should even do something. Did you hear what Miami did to help them with their? They fired the coach and GM. They brought Troy Aikman in to advise them to help them hire a GM and a coach. And
that was a smart move.
And Tom Brady. They said Brady's the one who went and fired Pete Carroll in Vegas, and he's helping the owner there. The owner gave him, put him in charge of finding a new GM and coach combination because both of them, of course, they're Hall of Famers. They understand the game. They understand offense, what needs to be done on offense. Speaking of Troy Aikman, did you hear him at the end of the game last night when it was obvious the Steelers were going to lose and they thought that was what's his name's last game, Rodgers' last game, and Aikman was talking about making the playoffs. He said the worst thing to do is to make the playoffs and then lose that first game. He said it kind of wipes out all the happiness over winning division, whatever. He said nothing. He said, believe me, I know nothing hurts worse than getting the playoffs and lose that first game.
Lose the first game, absolutely, yeah. And let's call it like what it is. And I've said this to a couple of people too. The Steelers got in via a missed field goal. All right, against the Ravens. All right, and it was
in a weak division.
In a weak division, and that's how they got there. And like I told my wife, had they won last night, they'd have gotten decimated up in New England. New England has a powerful defense. They're at home. Pittsburgh has never won a playoff game in New England, period.
Well, a lot of them because Tom Brady was on the other side of the ball. So,
well, that's true. That's very true. But even still, Drake May, I watched that game for the Patriots. Their defense is really tough.
Well, Drake May, and he looks great, and I think he's great. But let's see if he can do all that stuff against Houston.
That's true. That's going to be a great game. So, anything to close, either Mike or Ron? Anything?
I just want to say I'm glad to see Mike back. He was at CES. He got to see all the stuff out there, and glad you got to go out there and have a good experience. Got to hang out with Bob Dempsey and some of the folks out there. So that was great, and so looking forward to seeing Mike in the spring at the South Florida Drone Meetup. We'll be flying our old drones. We won't have any new drones.
And so we may have the 360. We'll see.
Yeah. You're right. I forgot. And I think the 360. I don't know anything, but I think we think it's come out next week or two. But I don't think it's that close. I think it's maybe more of February, whatever. I don't know anything. I just by what I read, right. I don't think it's close as we think it is to coming out. I mean, it's not going to come out in the U.S., of course, but I mean even coming out in China, but we'll see. But I look forward to it. And I hope those rumors are right, Mike, because I wouldn't buy it at $2,000 or whatever, like the A1, but I would buy it at $500.
Exactly. I couldn't believe the $500 price for standalone. That's unbelievable to me. But anyway, well, I enjoyed being on the show, Bill.
Thank you for being on, Michael. Really appreciate that.
And folks, thanks for following us, the Steeler Nation. We've been following them all season, Bill, since the training camp. We actually followed them from the draft last year. But this may be the most exciting off season we've had in a long time, Bill.
Probably in at least 18 years. That's for sure. And I want to answer Dre's comment right here. Yeah, I did want him fired. Did I want him embarrassed and humiliated? Well, let me tell you this, okay? He pulled the wool over the Rooney's eyes. He pulled the wool over the NFL's eyes. He is not an NFL caliber coach, okay? I don't know how much more I can say that, all right? Time and time again. How many coaches have you seen go out there, and this is footage that's verified, it's out on YouTube, it's a game against the Ravens. Tomlin went out there to try to trip one of the opposing players on a kickoff, okay? That was years ago, but it's still one of these things out here. And I'm a little fired up, Dre, okay? Because I'll tell you what, all right? I'm going to say this, all right? I'm passionate about my Steelers. I love them without hesitation, all right? And you know what? Mike Tomlin, unfortunately, has not been the person that he claims he is. All right. He is not a competent head coach in the NFL, and justice got served today. But the man is not going to be embarrassed and humiliated. He's going to walk into a network job, and he's going to make more money than any of us could ever think in our lifetime. All right. So there's no embarrassment and there's no humiliation in this. Okay. I don't want ever. I've been fired. It's been embarrassing. I've been humiliated. I don't like that. Okay. And I didn't wish that on him. But you know what? He brought this on himself, and I'm sorry if I sound a little uptight about this, but I am. And I'm really strong about this, Dre. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Okay. I do not want anything bad to happen to anybody because I've had it happen to me. So
anybody goes out online to see any of the Steeler forums, a lot of people are saying similar stuff to you, Bill.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. So, all right, we're going to wrap things up here, guys. As always, it's a great day to fly. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening.
Good night, folks.